And then there's timestamps. So this whole conversation was up to what we can see 25 minutes and 32 seconds long. So if it was 25 minutes and they pulled from 310 to 316, 2601 to 2609, and 2504 to 2532, that means that this whole sentence, all these sentences that they just pieced together, actually came from these different sentences that were said, because he didn't actually say bam, 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 what they're saying. He didn't really, say what it shows that they're saying, because they pulled from 3 different timestamps. So to me, what happened was they were having a conversation. She was probably worried about the PR happening against Wayfair and Justin Baldoni and all of the mess that Justin Baldoni was in, and because of Blake and Ryan, and he was probably assuring her that don't worry about them, like don't worry about it, it's going to be fine, trust us, whatever the conversation was. But if you just look that it was pulled from 310 to 316, 2601 to 2609, and 2504 to 2532, means that they pulled those sentences from 3 different times in that one recording, which tells me that they once again cherry picked sentences to piece into this narrative exactly what they did with the illegal text messages from Jennifer Abel that they retained from Stephanie motherfucking Jones. The recording has to be at least 25 minutes long and 32 seconds. And I would like to know what the context was, what they were talking about, what the whole conversation was, and how did it start and how did it get here? Because he didn't just dump on the phone and say, hey, don't, it's like, nah, there was at least a 25-minute and 32-second conversation that occurred. A week later, around September 17th, so Blake Lively filed that on September 8th. On September 17th, Wayfair came back and said the materials concern an alleged recording made by the witness of a conversation with defendant Steven Sarowitz without his consent. Plaintiff seeks to seal the audio recording in its entirety, although she purported to selectively quote from it in a portion of her brief in the public unsealed version she filed with the court. Lively boldly claims she placed the substance of the relevant information from Exhibit 1 in the public record, flatly ignoring that the person recorded without his consent. If she recorded without Steve's consent, the audacity to share that with Blake, and I would love to know when she shared it, how she shared it, who got a hold of who, if she was talking with Blake in August, all of the things, right? Because it's very, very, very strange that just because you had a couple of negative interactions with someone that you would record a phone call. The whole thing to me just doesn't make sense. Now, y'all, I'm not going to come after Claire like some of y'all been coming after Claire, calling her a little cray, because, she's a woman. She's an independent filmmaker. She's been on the hustle. I think I saw her say that she started as like stand-up and writing and doing plays and then making this movie, and congratulations. It's huge. You made a big movie, and from what I got after watching too many videos of this woman is that, her heart's in the right place where she's trying to help young girls with insecurities and things like that. So bravo, that's great. But also after watching tons of videos, I feel like her and Blake have a lot in common when it comes to unhealed trauma, as well as womanhood and being a victim because you're a woman. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. But I think I found where and why things might have went sideways between her and Justin. And just watch this and then we'll talk about it.
There's definitely a fake it till you make it in what we do, especially as women in this industry, especially as anyone who is historically underrepresented. You have to walk in with confidence, considering the amount of pushback you're going to get just naturally by our lovely patriarchal society. Right. So, but, and here's where I draw the line. If your work is harming you, if you feel like you can't, like you're leaving something every time you send out a post, or you feel like don't feel like your authentic self. And I say this as someone who deals with depression and anxiety. That was a big part of my work, is learning how to read my emotions and process and figure out what's true versus what my brain is telling me is true. Right. So like the classic, is everyone mad at me? Right.
Whoa, interesting. So depression and anxiety, pro-feminist. Oh, it gives me a little bit of Liz Plank kind of behavior. You feel me? But yeah, okay, let's continue.
That's its own issue. And that's something I dealt with when without a post or you feel like don't feel like your authentic self. And I say this as someone who deals with depression and anxiety. That was a big part of my work, is learning how to read my emotions and process and figure out what's true versus what my brain is telling me is true. Right. So like the classic, is everyone mad at me? Right. That's its own issue. And that's something I dealt with when I know, right? It's like every time I know, right? I'm like, everyone's mad at me, right? Everyone's just lying that they like this movie. Like that my brain will do that. And I'm like, I've had people come up to me. I'm like, those were real people, right?
Yeah.
Saying how much it meant, saying at live readings, which was a huge part of this. So I will say, and I was just talking with the creator about this, because so much of what we do is output, 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 right? Is being like, well, I have to keep going, otherwise I'll lose this credibility I've built. And my big thing is, if you are feeling depleted from doing your creative work, if you're feeling harmed by it, even if that just means your anxiety levels are higher, do not be afraid to take that step back and take ownership of your mental health and physical health. Because and this is as the queen of burnout, right? Queen, crown, right? I know, right? As the queen of burnout.
You're doing some calling out right now.
I know, but this is the thing.
Yeah, we're listening.
This is, again, something I have to hold myself to. And luckily, I have an amazing producer who's been with me since day one. And like, I have learned to say.
So, the queen of burnout, she says.
I don't have the energy for this original deadline, because my depression's gotten worse during this time of year, right? So I'll be like, okay.
Ding, ding, ding. She wasn't meeting deadlines. There you have it. She just said even during this production, she was talking to her producer, Crystal Collins, and said that she couldn't meet the deadlines.
Okay, that deadline I originally said, I can't do it. And instead of going, I'm so sorry, I'm the worst, I'm like, I physically, my 100% isn't matching when I originally set this deadline. So a lot of that is learning to honestly show yourself grace. Like, that's the big thing. And it's not even calling out, it's just being really kind to yourself. That is the only way.
And there we have it. She wasn't meeting deadlines, she said herself. In this project, she wasn't able to meet the same deadlines that she originally planned. Well, unfortunately, if you're not doing your own project and you don't have other people's money and you don't have a financier like Wayfair paying for it with all of these other producers, you have to meet the deadline. The crew, the cast, the studio, the distribution, all of these people's livelihoods rest on you, the filmmaker and the director, to make it happen. So unfortunately, unless you're running your own show or your own whatever, yeah, you can take time off. Yes, you can extend yourself some grace, but when you're not meeting deadlines on a bigger budget film that a financier like Wayfair is paying for, there's going to be some negative interactions and asking you why. And I feel like with another woman here who is in the loop of everything's hard because I'm a woman, obviously having some insecurities or had insecurities about herself, her body image, who she is, her place in the world. And then she said herself suffers from major depression and anxiety and wasn't able to hit deadlines. All of those things tied in, and now you're dealing with an executive producer who's probably just holding you accountable and asking, where are the dailies? Why isn't this done? What block of shooting you're on? When can I expect a teaser? When can I have a trailer? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, those are going to seem like very negative interactions to you. And what's interesting is I wonder when this all shifted, because the internet is just forever, Claire. The internet's forever. So there's these posts that she did saying, thank you, Justin. Thank you. #Empire Waste Film. Interesting that you're thanking a man that you said you asked not to be on set for and had negative interactions with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then there is also these where it says from Justin Baldoni, yes, home stretch, what a cast. And Claire writes 5 days left. Ah! So no offense to Claire, but it seems like she's doing exactly what Liz Plank and Blake Lively have done.